All right, hello and welcome to today's workshop, Building a Netflix Clone with JavaScript. I am Ryan Welford, and I'm joined by David Gilardi. Hello, David. I'm doing very well. So, as I said, I'm Ryan Welford. I'm a developer advocate here at DataStax, and historically a front-end developer, so I'm really excited to get into this project we have today. And David, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Here at DataStax. God, I've been 25 years into this, right? Between various IT things, coding, used to be a DBA at one point and such, so I've kind of run the gamut. And done, matter of fact, I guess I would consider myself a full stack dev. I've spent a lot of time in the backend world, lots with Java and C# and stuff like that. I also had mobile development time, JavaScript. My original JavaScript experience came back way before all of the awesome frameworks and libraries we have today. So it was a different world, that is for sure. But anyway, yeah, that's just a little about me. Let's do it.
All right. I'm trying to get a link for someone. There we go. All right, I'm going to post the link to that video that we were talking about earlier in the chat. There you go. Okay, so let's make everyone small. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping to get started. YouTube and Twitch is where we stream. You're probably on YouTube. Twitch is kind of our backup in case YouTube gets weird. We don't really follow the chat on Twitch, so if you are on Twitch and asking us questions there, head on over to YouTube and ask questions there. Or better yet, we do have a Discord that we monitor as well during streams and outside of streams, where we can answer your questions more long term. So go ahead and check that out. Join the community. We're very close to 13,000 people, I think, by now. So it's really, really cool. And also Menti.com. We are going to be using a tool today called Menti.com. If you've never used it, it's a kind of a quiz application that you can run in your browser. And we're going to be using it to ask you questions kind of at the beginning to get to know you, to kind of gauge your experience level and what you expect from this workshop. But then at the end, we are going to be doing a game, kind of a quiz about the content, and you have a chance to win some swag. The top 3 winners or top 3 scorers will get some swag sent to them, and we send the swag worldwide. So stick around for that, and it'll be really fun. All right. Just to answer a quick question. Yeah. Oh, you got it, David. Thank you.
Yeah, we should just go ahead and answer that one out loud anyway, because I'm sure other people have the question. So the question being, though, is how and when do I get the link for the GitHub, or where's that going to come from? We are going to give you all that information. So if you're chomping at the bit, you're ready to go, and you're like, how do I do the things? Tell me the things. We're going to tell you all of that, right? So we will give you the information. I can actually drop the GitHub repo here, so you can follow along if you wish. But yes, everything that you need today, we are going to present to you.
Yes. I did drop the link in the YouTube chat. I haven't done it in the Discord.
There you go. I just dropped it again.
Awesome. So to answer the question that was posed, we would drop the GitHub link. Nothing is needed to download or install.
That's right.
For the entire workshop. Everything will be done in the cloud, or actually, yeah, just in the cloud. Nothing to install. All right. So that's our GitHub. That's where we have all of our source code. That's where our exercises are going to take place, our hands-on parts. So that link is available for you there. We also have our cloud IDE. Like we said, nothing is needed to install. So if you don't have an IDE already, that's fine. We're going to be using Gitpod, which integrates very tightly with GitHub, and we're able to load up the code base in a cloud IDE that is virtually identical to VS Code, and make it super easy. It allows us to get an environment ready, so we don't have to wait around for things to install. We will have to wait around a little bit, but Netlify is what we are going to be using to host and deploy our app today. So we are actually going to be deploying this Netflix clone to production. And Netlify is going to be the tool that we use for that. It'll be our global CDN as well as our serverless backend. I don't know if I'm saying that quite right, but Some really cool technology there. And finally, for our database, we're going to be using Astra DB, which is a managed Cassandra database in the cloud. And we're going to be using the Stargate API layer for our GraphQL commands. All right. So as far as experience level, this is designed to be beginner friendly as well as intermediate level. Everything you should be able to, even if you have no idea about JavaScript, or if you're just kind of stepping into this whole coding world, you should be able to get through the workshop today. You may not understand every single nitty-gritty detail, but you should be able to get through the whole thing, and we'll walk you through all the steps. But obviously there will most likely be, we expect a lot of questions, so please ask questions.
Yep.
We do have a lot of content to get through, so sometimes it might feel like we're moving pretty quick, but 2 hours is not a lot of time to deploy a full Netflix app. So we're going to be kind of riding that line between speed and making sure that all of your questions get answered. So please be aware of that, and we'll get through it. All right.
And just one quick thing, I just see a couple questions coming in that I feel like we should address. And some of our helpful attendees today are answering as well. The session time, it's about 2 hours, right? We'll try to keep that within the 2 hour time frame. So yes, for those of you saying 2 hours, you've got that correct. I saw a question, I want to say it was Artemix, asked, can I put this on my resume? That's a great question. I think there are a couple things you can do, especially as front-end devs or full stack front ends. We tend to have portfolios, right? Now, would I go off and say that I created this Netflix app completely from scratch? Probably not. But could I put it in there and explain all the various components and what we did today and how I use them and how maybe that translates into another app that I build or something totally. Not only that, at the end, if you do the homework that we give you, then you can get yourself a badge, right? Those badges are verified. That is something that at least gives you a little bit of proof point that you went through this material and you did that. So how you choose to use that is up to you, but it's definitely something you can use to help level up your knowledge a little bit.
Yes. Speaking of badges, as David said, at the end of the workshop, we will assign some homework. I believe, it's going to be fairly simple, fairly straightforward. And when you complete that homework and submit it, we will verify it, and we will issue a badge, as you can see the example here. And you can use that badge to put on social media, put it on your LinkedIn profile, just kind of as a proof of your continued learning and some of the things that you have done. I don't know how many badges that we've issued so far. It's
over 500 now.
Yeah, I think it's probably getting close to 1,000 by now, because we have had a lot of popular ones lately. So
it's been a lot. And we grade them all, by the way. So bring them on. Definitely submit your homework, get your badge.
Yeah. Artemix asks if this clone will be close to the original Netflix web version, or will it be a little different? It'll be a little different, but it's designed to look and feel very similar. We are not going to be getting into the UI UX side of things today. That is enough for its own several day workshop, probably. But the video that we posted earlier, and we'll put another link, that Anya's video that this workshop is based on, goes through the whole thing. So that is also available. That link is also available in the GitHub repo as well. Okay,
and I do see one other quick one from Pranjal, and then we'll get going. Pranjal asks, how long do we have to submit the homework? Technically, there is no limit, but we ask that you do it within about a week. Because we're actively watching for those. So when you submit, we'll try to get to them as fast as possible. If you start going outside the week, we'll still see them and we'll still grade them. But the further away you get detached from the actual event, there might be a little bit more lag time. So try to do it within a week if you can.
Yeah, because next week we'll have another workshop that we have to grade too. So just if it takes longer than a week, be patient. We are going to be giving you a mission. Your mission is to deploy a Netflix clone to production over a global CDN using a NoSQL database with paging and infinite scrolling, and you have 2 hours. So good luck, and I guess we'll check in 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2 hours. Yeah, see everyone.
And we'll just see how you guys do. Of course, we're kidding. But what will be very cool is that we are going to do all of these things in 2 hours, and we'll walk you through the whole thing.
Brandon, I was like, what? That's great. As long as one person, Ben ends the stream, that's awesome.
It was a good joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to break our application down. And this is kind of our basic structure. We're going to have our user interface, which we're going to be using React. We are going to have our database where we're going to ingest content, store that content, and be able to retrieve it. And then we're going to use the GraphQL API to communicate between our Node.js backend and the database. So this is kind of our high-level view of what our application is going to be. This could be applied to any application, but we're going to be using it for our Netflix. So first order of business is we need to have a place to store all of our data, right? We're going to be creating this Netflix clone. We're going to have movie information, the title, the trailer, all this different stuff. And we need to have a place to store that information. And we're going to be using Astra DB. Astra DB is based on Cassandra. It is a Cassandra cluster in the cloud, and it is a NoSQL database. So that's what we're going to satisfy that part of the mission using a NoSQL database with Astra DB. So why don't we jump right into our first hands-on, and we're going to set up this database. So if you go to that link that you see on the screen, I'll also post it in the chat. You should also see the link in the GitHub repo.
I'll go ahead and drop it too.
Okay.
I'll spam that out for everybody. Oh, it looks like someone's beat me to it.
All right. So if you follow that link, you should be brought to the Astra DB sign-in. Now, I know some of you have already kind of pre-signed in. That's great. I'm going to walk through it for everyone who maybe has joined late or has not yet done it. You can sign in with anything you want. You can sign in with GitHub, with Google, with your own email. It's going to be very simple. I obviously have an account already, so I'm just going to sign in with Google. When you first sign in, well, if it'll let me. It just timed out. 1 second.
Yeah, I just noticed, by the way, that link that was just dropped, the Netflix clone one, Ryan.
Yeah.
That is not functioning.
Not working.
Properly. Nope.
Hmm.
And I have a hunch. I'm gonna take a look at what I think it is. I wonder if it's a fat finger.
Did I mistype it?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
it's a fat finger.
DTS.
Yeah, it's DTSX. So
Oh
let's
my
get the
gosh.
right one back out there. Yeah, no worries.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we know. We saw it. Ryan totally fat fingered the link. Go to the link he's dropping right now. You'll see that dtsx.io. Yeah, that's the ones he just spammed in the chat right now. Use that link, please. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. It's funny. I do that all the time, and I have to check it every single time now, and I still do it. Sorry about that. Yeah, DTSX. The new link is in the chat. Jeez. All right. It's embarrassing. Every time there's something. There's just something.
Now
Okay.
you know this is live, right? If you have any doubt that this is a live session, you know it's a live session.
Vikram, I'm trying. It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, for a plan, select. Let's just say this right up front. Select pay as you go. You will not pay a thing.
Yes.
Right. You automatically are put into a free tier. That's 40 gigabytes of storage. Like many millions of reads and writes, and that rolls over every month. There is nothing to pay. There is no credit card to put in. So just like pay as you go. By the way, this actually ties into the serverless question. I saw a ton of people earlier ask, what is serverless? Serverless essentially means that the database is effectively indefinitely elastic, right? So if you start out like these clusters that we're going to start off today, they're 3-node clusters. That could expand up indefinitely depending on your usage. Now, what we're doing and what we do in these workshops, you'll never even touch needing to go past a 3-node cluster. But Astra is serverless, and in such, it can expand or it can condense completely automatically and without you having to do anything. So that's really what's kind of meant by the serverless piece. That's why it says pay as you go. But again, for what we do, since there's a free tier that's in there that gets rolled over, you will not have to pay a cent.
Yep. Yeah. So select the pay as you go, as David said. Someone asked for the GitHub link, so I'm gonna post that. And when you start your account, it will probably bring you to this screen, right, where you're going to create a database. And this is where we're going to create our database. So I'm going to scroll down. I wasn't ready. Okay. So we're going to create a database. We're going to use the database name Netflix_workshop_DB. You can technically use whatever you'd like, but we prefer if you use these so that if there are any troubleshooting that we have to do, we're reducing as many variables as possible. And then the key space name is going to be Netflix_keyspace. And a lot of people usually ask, what is a key space? A key space is, if you know relational databases like MySQL or Postgres or anything, a key space is like a schema. It's basically just a collection of tables. So we're just naming it Netflix_keyspace. For provider and region, you can select any provider you want, and you can select whatever region is closest to you. I typically do US East 1 on Google, but you can use whatever provider in whatever region that is closest to you. And as far as these costs that you see, don't worry about that. It's free for you. It's not free for us, but it's free for you. You get that $25 credit, so you don't let this scare you. It's not going to charge you. Okay. Then just click create database.
And I'm seeing a bunch of the pay-as-you-go questions. Yes, select pay-as-you-go. You will not pay a cent because the way it starts in a free tier. And with the amount of storage and region rights, I mean, we're talking millions of region rights, gigabytes, 40 gigabytes of storage. You will not come anywhere near touching that. You do not have to put a credit card or anything. So yes, pick the pay-as-you-go plan. No, you do not need to enter a credit card. And ensure, if you would as well, because I saw some other questions come in, Ryan, that if you're following with us along in the repo, the database name, Netflix Workshop DB, and the key space, Netflix key space, are what we're asking you to use today in those fields. Because the rest of the exercises are going to key off of those.
I'm going to make this big. Just as an anecdote about the cost, I don't have a special Astra DB account here. I get the same $25 credit that all of you get, and I have never, of all the workshops that I've done, have never basically touched it. So I don't have a credit card in there either, so you don't have to worry about it. All right. So once you have created... Oh, Abdul, are you deleting the live stream after it ends? No, we save these live streams. It will be available at the same link. It is recorded. Jordan, we are still using Menti for the quiz at the end. I have left up the last question where you can put in what you want to learn. But we will be using that Menti at the end. So feel free to leave it open or close it and you can join later. But all right, so when you create your database, you will see the status. It'll start out as pending, and then after a little bit, it'll be active. Now, it usually only takes a minute or so, but we probably have close to 1,000 people right now hitting it all at once, so it might take a little longer than that. So just be patient, let it run, and while we are waiting for it, we're gonna go ahead and create a security token. Now, the security token is used to authenticate our app's access to our database. So this is quite important. So pay attention. I'll go slow, and I will probably have to do it a couple times so that everyone can keep up. So if you, on the top left where it says current organization and it has your email, if you drop that down and then click on organization settings, and then token management right here. All right, William Roberts, it says ensure database remains active after use free credit. You do not have to add a payment. If you were to use this database, if you were to create a database that you are actively using and it reaches that limit, it may ask you at that point to add a credit card, but you still don't have to. It'll just cut you off at that amount, right? And then the next month it'll refresh the $25. So it'll never require you to, but if you are using that much, maybe you have a successful or potentially successful business working on it. So that'd be good. So that's why it asks, ensure your database remains active, but you do not have to. Hopefully I answered that well. All right, so we are creating our token. We are in token management. And now we're going to select a role. Let's select the database administrator right here. And then we're going to generate token. And it will generate our token. Now, for security reasons, if you were to navigate away from this page, you would not be able to access this token again. So you can download a CSV. Oop. Do not have permission. Uh-oh. Did it log me out? I think it logged me out.
Yeah, maybe. I saw the same thing pop up on my screen, so I'm checking it out.
Bum, bum, bum. Oh, some others have had it crash. Uh-oh.
Okay, I will hit up the team real quick just to make sure we're all good.
Man. Too many people. We hugged it to death. It's the Reddit hug to death. We'll get that fixed. I'm just gonna maybe try refreshing. Wow. I don't know that we've ever had this happen before.
I've never seen that one. Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking to the team right now.
Okay.
So we'll get on it.
All right. So yes, obviously, most people have had it crash. If I guess this is a good time to answer any questions while we are waiting for that to come back. Congratulations, guys! You made our workshop history. Yeah, it's not letting me onto the website either, William. When 700 people make an API key at the same time. That's funny.
Yeah.
Garrett, yes, this is a Cassandra instance. Astra is a managed Cassandra cluster in the cloud. So we are using Cassandra. If you're familiar with Cassandra, then you'll be right at home. But we're actually using a API layer called Stargate. So we won't have to do anything with CQL or anything like that. We're going to be using GraphQL in this workshop. Manish, is DataStax yours? Yes, I work for DataStax. We are
yeah, we're DataStax.
DataStax Developers is the YouTube channel that we're on. Arjit, no previous experience with GraphQL. Will you face any problems? It will look interesting for sure. I have relatively recently gotten into GraphQL, but it should not be too difficult to get the hang of. So looks like I'm back. So yeah.
Mine did come back and then it flipped right back to the other thing. But I'm actively talking to the engineering team right now.
Okay. I'm just gonna do a quick refresh, see if it sticks around for me. Pramod, elaborating on GraphQL. We will elaborate a bit on GraphQL when we get to that portion of the workshop. Yeah, man. It crapped out on me again. Unable to generate token. Yeah, we're having some issues with the portal here. So repeat database creation. So for those of you who are still trying to create a database, if it's letting you in, which would be great, here are the database name and key space name that you'll be using. When you create your Astra account, choose the pay-as-you-go option. It will not require a credit card. You will not be charged. You get $25 free credit every single month. And that is more than enough for this workshop for sure. I mean, I've done many workshops on that same deal, and I have not used hardly anything. So create the pay-as-you-go database, use Netflix Workshop DB as the database name right here, and then the Netflix key space as the key space name. And then you can choose whatever region and whatever provider you want. Usually we recommend choosing the one closest to you. And then click Create Database.
Yes, Manish, perfect point. That's right. Yeah, we helped crashing it so that it can evolve. Yeah, no, you never know, right? You never know when you might run into something like this when you have so many people on. So this is definitely one of those cases where if we clearly ran into a hiccup, then we need to make it better.
Can we trust some apps clone bundle sellers? Do they really work? I don't know what you're talking about. Probably not. Sanyam, do you receive any certificate? We don't offer certificates per se. We do have homework that we assign at the end, and when you complete the homework, we issue badges. And you can use those badges to post on your social media or like LinkedIn or something, and they're really good. Brandon asked a very important question. Are hot dog sandwiches? They're actually tacos. Yeah, it's pretty surprising. Raghav, can we integrate this technology with Kate, Sandra, and Docker? Which technology? Astra? Maybe? That'd be a question for Alex, and I don't know that he's on.
Oh, what's the question, Ryan?
Can we integrate this technology? And I'm not sure what technology, so can we integrate this technology with Kate, Sandra, Kubernetes and Docker? So we have Kate, Sandra, which is Cassandra on Kubernetes.
Yeah, I'm going to drop some links to Kate, Sandra. Go take a look. Yeah, the Astra runs on a Kubernetes control plane. This is actually something, funny enough, I was answering a similar question in Discord. And so you can take a look at katesandra.io. It's open sourced. And that's something. As a matter of fact, you'll find that DataStax Suite Stargate is open source. Like all these projects and programs that we have, we open source a lot of most of it, honestly. So if you're interested to find out what Astra is running on and how you can do it, take a look at Kate, Sandra. I just dropped those links. I'll just spam them again for fun. There you go.
Dhruvesh asks, can you give a roadmap for becoming a good front-end developer? Wow, that's a big loaded question. I mean, I think you're on the right track already doing these example projects, just getting familiar with the different technologies. React, I am a React fanboy for sure. It just makes a lot of sense in my mind. It does not, that I'm not saying that React is the best. It just makes the most sense to me. And I think that's kind of key, is figure out what helps you do the best work that you can do, and just do a lot of different examples, try different things. And that's just how you get better. Please don't spam in chat, Milan. Yes, the error is happening for all of us.
Yeah, we're working, again, if you're seeing that 403 or if you're seeing something like that, we are working on what's going on in the back end here to get that up and running. So we do see it. We do see it. And when you do have questions and stuff, please don't spam them, like Ryan just said. There are a lot of you here. There is a lot of things going through the chat. And if you spam it, it actually makes it that much harder for us to keep track of the things that came before and such like that. So again, ask your questions or make your statements, but please don't spam them.
Yeah. How is Astra free? Well, it's not free for us. It's free for you. We are offering that $25 credit every month as a way to make it easy for people to get started and see the power and the ease of use of Astra and Cassandra in general. So it's free for you. Any substitute for AstroDB? There are lots of different NoSQL databases out there. I know many people have mentioned MongoDB. It's a pretty popular one. We're using Astro for several reasons. One is that's what we are known for. We're known for Cassandra stuff, and also it allows us to do using that Stargate API layer. We can do a lot of different things that other standard NoSQL databases can't do. I'm just gonna refresh this.
Oh, let's see. Can you correctly pronounce my name?
Probably not.
Siddharth? Siddharth? Did I get Siddharth? I know Siddharth, but yeah, Siddharth.
Does React require any IDE, or can we type its code in the inspect element feature in a browser? So React compiles into HTML and JavaScript. I mean, there are add-ons to like Chrome. There's like Chrome extensions where you can manipulate the components on the site like as you're developing. That's just a kind of a temporary, tweaking thing. That's, you're not actually coding at that point. IDEs are still needed. I think Code Sandbox has React support. Perhaps. I don't know. I haven't used it. I mean, I've used it for some things, but I haven't used it for React. You mentioned Netlify. Yes, Netlify. I guess I can go a little bit deeper into Netlify. We're trying to do something while we're waiting. So Netlify is a global CDN, a content delivery network. So it hosts the sites kind of on the edge. And correct me if I'm wrong, David. I'm trying to explain this from memory because I don't have the sheet up. But it hosts sites on the edge of this network close to the users. So you're not going to have your site, if you're using something like Netlify, you're not going to have your site on a central server that everyone is hitting. It's going to be distributed around geographically, so that when I'm using it, I'm in the United States and I hit this site, it's going to be somewhere close to me. And if someone, I know we have a lot of folks from India, if you're hitting that same site, you're actually hitting a different instance of it on a different server, because it's hosted distributedly geographically.
I like that. Distributedly.
Yeah, it's a new word.
And another thing to know about Netlify as well is that it's based off Jamstack, right? So Jamstack, especially for front-end, full-end devs, this is like an awesome stack to take a look at. If you're not familiar with what Jamstack is, do a Google search for Jamstack. You'll find real quick, I believe there's even jamstack.org, but it's JavaScript, APIs, and markup, right? So that's the Jam part. And Netlify, there are other services like that. They allow you to employ Jamstack to deploy your applications. So the one we're working today, like this Netflix clone. So you've got Netlify that, as Ryan was explaining, right, is a global CDN, right? Uses edge networks and everything. So when you push the content out, that automatically fans out geographically around the world. So as he said, you don't need a single server, right? In the past, how would we do web servers? Well, we'd have a data center somewhere, we'd set up a server, we'd install everything, and everyone would go to that one server. But things are at such a scale today, and we expect things to be almost instantaneous. So we don't really have that luxury in a way. So services like Netlify, they essentially handle all that part for you. The other part about Jamstack is you are essentially you're pre-building static content. So when you build your site, it's going to generate all the static pieces and everything. So that way, when it gets served, it's actually serving static content, which actually makes it a lot faster than it would be if you had to render your screens in such real time. You might be wondering then, well, wait a minute. If it's a bunch of static content, then how do I update my screens, right? How do I change things on my screens? And that's where things like React come into play, the serverless functions come into play. So you can still have this nice kind of interaction between what is traditionally backend code and asynchronous, updates to your website. So even with a static page, I can actually get real-time asynchronous updates that occur on my page. So Netlify essentially encapsulates all of this into a single service where you can deploy your app right out of GitHub. We're going to do that actually. You can deploy your app right out of GitHub, and then it's providing this for you right out of the box. So you don't actually have to worry about installing your code on a server. You can just go to something like Netlify, and it's automatically going to be all around the globe.
All right.
Oh, I see a question from Kate Prats that I totally want to talk to here on Discord. It says, any big players that use DataStax that we might know of? I love this one. So DataStax is the company behind Apache Cassandra, right? We've been doing that since Apache Cassandra became a thing, really. So it's been 10, 11 years or something like that. Cassandra is used by something like 90% of all of the Fortune 100 companies. Some of my favorite ones that are on this list. Apple Siri is backed by Cassandra. Netflix is backed by Cassandra. Spotify, Uber, Starbucks, Home Depot, Lowe's, Sony PlayStation. God, there are so many more. There's pretty much, if you pick up an app somewhere, especially some of the newer disruptive apps on your phone, it's most likely using Cassandra in the back end. So that's where, if you're curious about like where DataStax comes into play, FedEx is another one. Pretty sure UPS is on that list. I'm trying to think of others. Yeah, Apple actually has one of the largest Cassandra clusters in the world. It's many, I believe, like 100,000 nodes or something like that. It's pretty insane. I want to say Alibaba is another one. Yeah, there are a ton out there that in fact use Cassandra.
There's a question. I'm kind of going back in time and seeing some questions. Oh, did I just miss it? I just lost it. Oh, Justin asks about React versus React hooks and which is better. Not really sure that's the way to think about it. React hooks, if you're talking about class-based components versus functional components, I'm certainly more of a fan of functional components. I started out doing class-based components, but functional components I think are kind of the future. It's a little bit syntactically more awkward, especially if you're coming from, I guess, class-based, like object-oriented type stuff, like Java or something. But the functional, that's kind of where they're moving. Yeah, it's functional components. Hopefully that answers your question. React hooks versus React is not really doesn't really make sense because it's still React. Hooks versus Redux, are they mutually exclusive? I mean, I think there is a more recent state management thing that uses hooks, but Redux is really popular. For how long can we use the AstroDB account after the workshop is over? As long as you want. This is your account. Seriously, use it and make apps and utilize that free $25. You're not going to even touch it for this one, really. So if you have any app ideas or want to experiment, use it. Use it forever. Ayush, I guess tomorrow the stream's going to be really smooth.
Yeah. I'm sure, right? If anything, sometimes the Wednesday ones, right? These are the ones where then this isn't a new workshop for us, but these are the ones where this is the first one, the first instance. And there is no doubt that sometimes come to the Thursday one and we have smoothed out some kinks or something like that. This actually, what we're experiencing today is an absolute first. We have done hundreds of these workshops. And this is the first time we've ever seen something quite like this. So we really appreciate, by the way, all of you bearing with us today and going through kind of like a question and answer session right now while we get this fixed. So yeah, I sure hope so that tomorrow would be a lot smoother. That's for sure.
Yeah, it looked like it might have been working. And then when I went to token management, it crapped out on me again. Ah, man. Okay, so some of you are generating tokens. Okay, I think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Fortunately, that ate up a bit of time.
It did eat up a bit of time there.
So what is good is that the GitHub repo is designed to be self-service as well. So if if we run out of time, It sucks, but you should still be able to finish it, and the homework will still be valid. There was a question, how long for the homework? Technically, as long as you want. We prefer it in the next week so that we don't get a huge backlog. If it takes longer than a week, that's totally fine. It might take a little longer for us to grade it. Okay.
I'm seeing some folks say they're back in, and I am seeing that so far my screen is staying. We'll see.
I think I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I am though.
Okay. I'll wait a little bit. Mine seems to be working. It looks like it's coming out of it. I just don't want to get too far ahead in case some people are still waiting for it to come back.
And just a couple things to address while we're doing this. For those of you, we totally understand that, this is the 2-hour session and we intend to keep it within that time. And if, if it's already getting late for some of you, we also, we understand in different parts of the world, it might be getting late. Then this session is going to be recorded, right? So the second that we're done, that will come back. And as Ryan was talking about earlier, the repo itself is fully self-service. So you can actually go through this on your own time totally. And then we're always here in Discord, right? So you can always reach out to us in Discord. Now, there's another session tomorrow at the same time, right? So that's also an option if you'd like to do that. Now, Ryan, I don't know about you. I guess if it comes back and we can move forward, we could probably still try to get through the material, but I know that people are probably going to have to end at the 2 hours for some.
So. We'll continue on. We might have to end early, or we might have to skip some things. I think there's a section that we can probably skip. I just do like a high level overview of it. But yeah.
Yeah, and I am seeing a lot of folks saying that theirs look like they're coming back.
Okay. I'll go over the token generation again for those who maybe have missed it.
And Sunny Boy, can we get the badge if we watch the recorded one? Absolutely. The badge is actually about doing the homework and getting through the material. It's not only that you were here, right? We know you're here. If you do the homework and you show us that you got to the end of that, good. You can totally get the badge.
Yes. Okay. So if everything's working, hopefully you are on your dashboard, as you can see here. To generate a token for our authentication, we're going to go up to the top left where it says current organization and then your email. We're going to drop that down and click on organization settings. Okay. And then click on token management. I'm going to have to scroll down. And then we need to select a role. And we're going to select the database administrator. And then we're going to generate token. And what I was saying before I got cut off by this whole deal is this is the token that we're going to be using. I'm going to go ahead and copy it to my clipboard. But if I navigate away from this page, which I will be, I cannot access this token again. For security reasons, it only lets you access it this once. So in order to reference it later, go ahead and download the CSV. And this is basically just a CSV with all of this information so that when I navigate away from this page, I can still get that information from the CSV.
By the way, for some of you who are getting an error in your database, that's okay. If that happens, given what we just saw happen, there may have been something that happened. Just recreate it. Just go back to create database, recreate it. You can do the same name, same key space, and everything. Leave the one that's an error alone. It'll go ahead and generate a new one for you. That's no big deal.
Yep. Okay, Abdul and Anish looks like okay, and Vikash, still a few that cannot get in.
Okay. Well, I know they're rolling through nodes right now, so I have a feeling it's gonna, have to go across everybody. So I'd say just give it a little bit more patience. And again, appreciate the patience already, and it looks like they're all coming back online.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on just in the interest of time. As we've said before, it is recorded. We do have another session tomorrow, and the GitHub has all the steps. Okay. So let's move on. We've created our security token. We have our token value. I've copied it to my clipboard. I've also downloaded the CSV. Now we're going to create our tables with the GraphQL playground. So if I go back, if I just click on the big logo at the top, bring me back to my dashboard. Yeah, and I will say, if it's still erroring out for you, feel free to just, while you're waiting for it, just sit back and watch, try and learn as much as you can just by watching. And hopefully when it does come back, you'll be able to go through it very smoothly. So I'm going to click on the connect button to the right of the Netflix Workshop DB database that I have. Actually, I guess you can't see that. Here it is, right above David's head. Click on that. And then I'm going to select the GraphQL API on the left side here. All right. Because we're going to be using GraphQL API to manage this database. I'm going to go ahead and launch the GraphQL playground by clicking this link right here. And this is a unique link for each one of you. It's for your database specifically. So I cannot drop that link for you.
And if you're still seeing a 403, just give it a little bit more time as they are getting through all of the problem areas. It's just going to take a minute.
All right. When you guys are at this screen, this GraphQL playground, why don't you give a thumbs up in the chat just so I know that I'm not going too fast. Justin, if you go to the Connect tab, so if you click into your database on the left here, and then there's a tab at the top, Connect. And the left side, you can click on GraphQL API, and then launch the GraphQL playground using this link. Just real quick, I'm not going to go there, but to go to the token management, you drop down this organization drop down at the top left and go to organization settings, and then there will be a token management section. All right, getting lots of thumbs up and dabs. Good to see. All right, we're in the playground. Awesome. First thing that we need to do is authenticate this tool. And we're going to do that by clicking on this HTTP header. Actually, I need to make this bigger, don't I? Dark mode always makes it harder to read.
You know, Ryan, can you explain a little bit what GraphQL is?
What GraphQL is? It is a... Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could probably do it better. It is a query language. Graph query language that... Man, I was not prepared to do an overview of it. That allows us to create tables, add data, you know, just like you would with like CQL or SQL. But it uses a very different structure, I guess.
Yeah, it's a query language that, for one, you can use natively in JavaScript, right? It also allows you to access more than one data source, so you're not limited to to a single database or something like that. So it's actually kind of nice because let's say that you are trying to construct a query that uses multiple data sources. Well, in one way, you'd have to go to each individual data source, have to pull the data out, maybe do something in your application with those. With GraphQL, you can actually do that right there out of the language and query across the data sources and such in that single language. So it's definitely adds a lot of query power, if you will, especially to JavaScript, because you can do it natively in JavaScript. So I would say that it's yet another API, but it's on the newer end, and it's definitely something to check out for those of you who are full stack front end developers when you're working with databases.
Yeah, and as someone asked earlier about like not having any experience with it, it will look way different than what you're typically used to for APIs or like a REST API or a query language. Right. But don't let that scare you. It is fairly easy to get the hang of once you dig in. All right, so to authenticate, we're going to click on the bottom here. There's the HTTP headers. go ahead and click on that. And this is where we enter our token. You see the populate me part. You can highlight that, and I'm just going to paste in my token there. Again, if you need to reference your CSV file, you can go ahead and do that. And that has authenticated this this session. Gondar still seeing status as pending. It might take a little bit. Obviously, we had that issue that might have set back a few things. Yeah, there are a few that are still pending. Unfortunately, just in the interest of time, we're gonna keep going. Feel free to just watch and learn as much as you can, and then when it comes back, you'll be able to go through it much faster. So apologies for the hiccup and the delay there. All right, so we've authenticated our tool, and we're gonna go ahead and create a table using GraphQL. And this is the mutation. So mutation in GraphQL is how we edit data, and this is going to be the create table mutation. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this right out of GitHub. You can do the same. There's a little widget up here that you can copy. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight that and paste in this mutation. So just to go over a little bit, we're going to create a table. We define our key space, Netflix underscores key space. So if you used a different key space name, this is what you would need to change this here. And then the table name is, we're calling it reference list, right? And you can see that also referenced here. Reference list is what we're calling this whole mutation. So we're saying we're doing a mutation. We're calling this mutation reference list. This is the mutation we're doing. We're creating a table. We're defining the key space name, giving it the key space that we have already created. We're giving the table a name, reference list. Then we have the if not exists equals true. So if it already exists, it's not going to do anything. Pavitra, if after the token, after you've gotten the token, we're going to go to the GraphQL playground, which the instructions to get to are in the GitHub repo. And that's where we are right now. Partition keys. We don't really have time to get into what partition keys are, but we're defining one of our columns basically to be a partition key, and then the clustering keys as well. We're defining a few columns to be that, and we don't have time to really get into what that is. It doesn't really matter right now, I think. And then we're gonna click the big play button, and it'll kind of give us this reference list true means we successfully created this table.
Oh, a mutation pratik. A mutation essentially is just when you're making some kind of change, right? You're mutating the data. So maybe I'm inserting data or I'm updating data or something like that. That's a mutation.
Yep, and if we're just reading it, it's called a query, and we'll show you that in just a bit. All right, so we've created that table using GraphQL. Now we're going to insert some data into the table. So once everyone who is able to do it has done this step and successfully created the table, give me a thumbs up, because the next part that I'm going to go over, I really need everyone's attention, because it can cause some hiccups if you're not following along. Server cannot be reached on Playground. Yes, so you need to authenticate this. So Piyush, we see your message. Yep. You need to authenticate it by going to HTTP headers down here and entering your token that you generated. It'll say populate me. Just replace populate me with your token here. And then it will authenticate it, and the server cannot be reached message will go away. All right. Authentication error in creating table. Again, Shashank, you probably need to enter your token in HTTP headers. Where's the mutation code? All of our code is hosted on GitHub, on the GitHub repo. And that's where I'm copying it. What step
are you in, Ryan?
I just finished step 3 in part 1.
Okay, so let me give him the link to step 3. There you go. Yep. So link to step 3. Oh, you got it. Thanks, Cedric. Okay, Cedric beat me to it. Wonderful.
All right. Yeah, and I'm just copying this directly out of the GitHub repo, so feel free to do the same. Yeah, oh yeah, for the token, you do need the Astra CS part. That is part of the token. So if you just copied the text itself, then you're going to need this part. Thank you, Siddharth. All right, so I saw there was a lot of thumbs up. I'll give it just a couple more seconds. This next part can be a little tricky if you're not following along, so I want you to watch first, and then we'll go over it, and you can follow along, because you're gonna have to. You'll see why.
Yeah, and Kamal, if anyone gets the error that says unknown key space, Netflix key space, one, be sure you don't have a typo, because I did that myself earlier today, and I had Netflix key space. Two, if you didn't create the key space name with the key space name we gave you in the instructions earlier and use some other name, you're going to need to use that name instead, right? So if you did not use, this is, by the way, why we set you up and we say, hey, please use this database name and this key space name in the instructions, because that way later on, as we're going through the rest of the exercises, we're going to reference those. If you use something different, just use whatever you used, and that should solve that issue.
Yep, and yeah, right over here, this is where you would change that. If you use a different key space name, you're going to need to change this. If you misspelled your key space name, you're going to need to change this. All right. Sami Raju, what are partition keys and clustering keys? They are something that we don't have time to get into today, but we do have a workshop called Introduction to Cassandra that goes into exactly what those are. I would recommend. We also have a crash course, a pre-recorded, produced version, and that goes into detail on what those are. Not really necessary for today's workshop. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Up at the top, we have another tab. This tab is the GraphQL tab. Currently, we're in the GraphQL schema tab. That's where we create tables and everything. We're going to the GraphQL tab. So switch over to the new tab, to this tab over here. And we're going to need to authenticate it again. So if we click on HTTP headers, you'll see populate me needs to be populated again. And actually, I'm going to go back to the schema tab to copy this, because I have the other thing copied. Probably should have had you do this first. So again, just watch for now, and you'll see what you have to do. So we're going to a new tab. We need to populate the token with the token again, so that's authenticated. And then, this is the tricky part. Up at the top, you still see server cannot be reached, because in this URL up here that I'm highlighting, it's pointing to the wrong thing. Here, hold on. Let me make this bigger. I have to make it a little smaller to show. Okay. So see how it is pointing to system right here? We need to change this to Netflix key space. To Netflix key space. Right? Did I type that right? Yeah. So you need to change the URL at the top to point to the correct key space, and you need to copy in your token. All right. So we'll go over it again. You're in this tab right now. If you go to, wow, I'm just doing all sorts of different things. There we go. I'm trying to zoom out. There we go. All right. So if you go to the other tab,
I see.
if you go to the other tab, GraphQL tab, you need to populate the HTTP headers again with your token. Right. So go ahead and do that.
Both of them need.
And then in this URL at the top, not the URL of your web browser, but the URL of the GraphQL playground, at the very end, you need to replace system with your key space name, which we are using Netflix key space. All right. Give us a thumbs up if you have successfully done that. I know that can be tricky, so I wanted to make sure that everyone understood. All right, lots of thumbs up. Awesome. I'm glad everyone followed. All right, so we're going to copy in some data into our tables. So this is a collection of a bunch of different genres, movie genres, right? So we're going to have a lot of different genres in our Netflix clone. And this mutation is inserting genres to our reference list, right? So insert to reference list, and then we have all the values. Our label is genre, our value is action, anime, award-winning, children, etc., right? I'm just going to go ahead and copy this whole block and paste it into my playground. And I can just click play. And it should return all of this giant object with all the different genres that I've added. All right. So it should be pretty easy. Just copy, paste. Now we are going to move down. And let's retrieve a list of values. So we're going to go ahead and do this query. So we've been doing mutations, right? We did a mutation to create the table, and we're doing a mutation to create all the genres, to insert all the genres. Now we're going to do a query, and the query is going to retrieve all of the genres. So we're saying we're creating a query. We're calling it get all genres. We're referencing the reference list table, and we're giving it the values that we want. So the value, anything that's label genre, give us the value of, right? Hopefully that makes sense. And I'm just going to highlight all this, delete it, and paste in this new query. And when I execute that, it should give us, in our values array, value action, anime, award-winning, children and family. All of our genres are returned. So this is querying our table that we just added all the genres to, and we're getting back all the genres. Make sense? All right, I know I'm probably moving a little fast, but we are definitely behind. So now let's create another table. We're going to create the movies table. So we're going to go back to the schema tab, right, which is where we create our tables. And we're going to copy in this mutation. We're going to create table in our key space. The table name is movies by genre. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this in here. So you can see movies by genre is the name that we're giving this. And then we are giving our columns, right? So we have a column as our partition key. Obviously, we can't go into detail of what that is yet, but we're going to create a column called genre. We're going to create a column year, title, synopsis, duration, and thumbnail, right? And the thumbnail is going to be our trailer videos that we'll have playing, auto playing. Remember, Netflix always auto plays. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and execute this to create that table. Yep. And you can see that movies by genre is true, and so we have created that table successfully. Now we're going to insert values into the movie table. So this is the mutation that we do for that. We're going to move over to our GraphQL tab. I know we're going back and forth, but remember the schema is where we create new tables, and GraphQL is where we both insert data and query data. So we're going to go over to this tab, and we're going to insert movies here. And this is going to be our sci-fi. I think this is all of our sci-fi data. So you can see, for example, the inception mutation here. We're inserting into movies by genre. And here are the values. Our genre is sci-fi. The year is 2010. The title is Inception. The synopsis is the synopsis. We have this description here. The duration in minutes. We have this number 121. And our thumbnail is a reference to an MP4 hosted on Imager that will autoplay when it's up. And then our value that's returned is the title, which will be Inception. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Yep. And and paste it in here. And if I execute it, we should see all of our data. The Inception, Prometheus, Aliens, and Blade Runner has been inserted. All right. I know I've been moving very, very fast, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here to address some questions. Adomas, I have no idea what is happening. I apologize. So we're going over, this is GraphQL, which is a query language, and basically allows us to manipulate data in our database. And we're using GraphQL to both create tables, which is what we've done in the GraphQL schema. We're creating tables here and defining the columns that will store all of our data. And then in this other tab, we are inserting data into those columns. And our columns are here: genre, year, title, synopsis, duration, and thumbnail. And this is the data that we're inserting into those columns. Hopefully that...
Yeah, and just to add on, Ryan, so Pratik asks, do you need to know something to understand GraphQL? I mean, any prerequisites? Well, just like any query language, if you're not familiar with the language itself, it can be hard to, just look at it and know what does it actually mean. So there are a couple things you can do. Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, on the very right-hand side, in the playground, there are two tabs, one called Docs, one called Schema. So what's really cool here about the playground is when you open up those tabs, they'll in a context-sensitive way, they will, thank you, Ryan, they will give you documents and show you what kind of APIs, what methods, like what things do you have available, so you can kind of use that to help understand what can I do with the data, right? I'll go ahead and drop the link that I had in before about the GraphQL.org. There it is. Yeah. I think it's probably good to take a look at that site. And here, let me go ahead and drop that. GraphQL.org. Here it goes.
Aditya, the mutation is the GraphQL word for editing data. It's both for creating tables and inserting data. That is just the kind of the key word that it uses to say, I'm making changes right now.
Yep.
So that's what mutation means. I know it sounds crazy and different, but that's all it means.
Oh yeah, Pranjal, is there a difference between query and mutation? Yeah, so mutation is when you're making a change. A query is when you're just reading something, right? If I'm querying something, I'm just going to read and see what's in the database or what are the results. Where the mutation, I'm inserting or I'm updating, I'm mutating the data in some way.
Philip asks, if I make a mistake, how do I undo it, or do I have to start over? It depends on what the mistake was. So if you can elaborate on what you did.
I will say, though, if you made a mistake in data, the cool thing is with Cassandra, you have upserts. You can just reapply the data, right? So if let's say you made a mistake and you did something, you put something in a column you didn't want to, you just reapply the statement with the fix in that column and you'll be fine.
Balaji asks, is GraphQL specific for Cassandra, or is it a standard for all NoSQL databases? It's certainly not specific for Cassandra. It can be used with a lot of NoSQL. I don't know if it's a standard for all of them.
Yeah.
I know some NoSQL databases have very specific query languages that they use. What is thumbnail? Thumbnail is the picture that is behind the title, usually. We're using videos so that they kind of show the trailer.
Shivani, per your error, make sure that you are in the GraphQL tab, not the Graph Schema tab. I believe that might be what you're seeing there.
Yep. And I think I did see a question of what the difference between these two are. So the GraphQL Schema tab is where we edit our schema. We're going to create tables. We can delete or truncate tables here. This is where we're basically creating schema level changes.
Right.
And then the GraphQL tab is where we're manipulating the data in the tables themselves. So we can insert data and we can query data.
Ryan, do you see that question from Jordan Halliday? Where do you get the page state? We were just talking about that earlier, weren't we?
Oh yeah, we were. So you're a little bit ahead of us. That is actually something I was going to skip in the interest of time, but the page state will be returned on this side. So this is where you're typing in the GraphQL queries. On this side, the results, your page state will be returned. And you can use that page state, so you can just highlight it over here, copy it, and use it on the query side to get the next page. So I know you are ahead of us, and that's totally fine. But hopefully that answers your question. Obviously, I can't show you specifically because I'm not there yet.
One thing I just want to say real fast, by the way, Pedro FPV in YouTube asked, where did it go? And I've seen this question come up a couple times. Could this workshop rely on Mongo instead of Cassandra? Are there specifics that would force one to choose, choice over the other? From a technical standpoint, as the workshop, the code, could you modify this to work with the document database and Mongo? You totally could. But case in point, Netflix is actually a huge Cassandra user. And reason being, we travel a lot of times, in our job. And if you've ever started like a show in Netflix, let's say in one part of the world, and then you fly to wherever it is you're going, and then you can just pick up where you left off. It's completely seamless. And one way Netflix is able to achieve this is because with Cassandra allows you to scale indefinitely. And not only that, you can have replication across like a geographic, you can have a global database, really is what it comes down to. And that means if I'm making changes over here in this part of my data center is part of this part of the world, they'll automatically be propagated at the speed of wire over to the other ones. It scales extremely well. It's actually one of the things Cassandra is known for. So to me, the case in point is Netflix actually uses Cassandra for Netflix, right? So could you make this app work in Mongo? Yes, you could. You're not going to get quite the scalability and the performance you're going to get as you will with Cassandra. I can't say for sure, I'm not one of the Netflix engineers. I can't say that's why they do that. But yeah, so you can make it work with Mongo, but that's, it's just not going to get the scalability that you're going to get. And that's a big reason why Netflix uses it.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and continue on. Obviously, we have quite a bit to go through, and I just want to go through this quickly. So we're going to retrieve. This is an example of querying those movies that we just inserted. So we're going to query movies by genre, and we're going to get all of our data from there. So if I just copy this over to here, and I click the play button, you'll see that we are getting, we have our title, Prometheus, the synopsis of it, the duration is 134. So we're getting all of our data from this query. And we're actually getting all the data from everything where the genre is sci-fi, right? Because we said, get all movies by genre where the genre is sci-fi. All right. Now there's a part, paging. So I want, and I know we're kind of making this decision on the fly. And David, you can let me know what you think. In the interest of time, I'm thinking maybe skip the paging thing.
Yeah.
I know some people have already kind of gone ahead of us and done it. That's awesome. I think we're going to skip it for the workshop part because we're very short on time at this point. But this, just as a quick overview, this was talking about how to query a limited number of data points and then saving the page state so that we can query the next batch of them, which is used for the infinite scrolling and eases up on the database. Okay, so we only inserted a few things. David, do you think we should skip the bulk load data as well? We have some data in there.
Yeah, we do have some data in there. I believe we could be okay with that. Just remember, if we do skip this now, just in interest of time, for those of you who are going to go do your homework so you can get your badges, you are going to want to do the data loading piece. You're definitely going to want to do that. But yeah, I think we're safe to skip it for now. All right.
We're going to skip step 9 in the interest of time, but this is where we're going to get all of the movie data. It's all in this CSV, and there's a way to bulk upload all that data. Philip asks a question about where did the synopsises come from, where that information come from. In step 7a, this is the insert data thing that we did. And this is where here's a synopsis for Inception right here. Here's a synopsis for Prometheus right here. So this is where we inserted all of that data. This is step 7a. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the CSV stuff. This is just to upload all the rest of the data. All right. I'm going to go real quick back to the slides to talk about the next part, which is how we're deploying this. So we have created the database. We've inserted information into that database. We're using the Stargate API layer and GraphQL to manipulate and access that data. Now, we are going to deploy to Netlify. As we've said before, Netlify is a global CDN that hosts the content kind of on the edge of the network so that it's close to the end users. It is not a centrally located server that everyone is hitting. And what that means is that it's very, very scalable, right? So you can handle a lot of traffic because it's going to be distributed through over lots of different nodes, if you will. So we're going to be using Gitpod to for this part. This is as I said before, it's a cloud-based IDE that integrates very well with GitHub. So we're going to be manipulating the code directly. And then Netlify is going to talk to AstroDB directly. So let's do hands-on number 2, finally, and do the deploy to Netlify. So I think, David, are you prepared to do that part?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, give your fingers a rest, and I'll start answering questions as well.
Right. And you should already have my screen, so I'll just wait for it to pop up here.
You are up and running.
Okay, there's lag, that's all. Okay, great. Yeah, no. All righty, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna move to part 2, as Ryan just said. Let me go ahead and get all of you the link. Oh, Artemix, when we said we're going to skip, so what we did, right? And let me know if I need to make this a little bigger. I'll try to blow it up a little bit more here. There we go. So what we did is there is a data loader section. I want to say that's step 9, load a CSV dataset. We just skipped over it, is what we did. So we're just skipping over it for now because we want to try to get you to all happy path, since we had to, spend a lot of time earlier. So we're just skipping this for now. Now, the good thing is we've loaded some base data already in GraphQL. That's what you were just doing. When you created some of the tables, then you loaded some data with the insert statements, new mutations. And so we do have some base data in. But for the full complete thing, right, you're going to want to do this step 9 that you see here. We're just skipping it for now. That's all. We're just doing that for time. But if you go back and do the homework, right, that's going to be part of it. And then you can get your badge and everything. So, all right. So I'm going to go now. We're going to come down here to part 2, deploy to Netlify. I'm going to get you all a link. And let me go part 2. Part 2. Boop, 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 boop. All right. Yeah, Pavan, we already this application does use React. Yes, it does. Okay, so we're gonna follow the instructions here, and I'm just gonna go down or try to go to a pace where everyone can keep up and everything like that. Now, you'll notice in each of the little sections here, they have these little drop downs, right? So I'm not really gonna go into many of those, but you'll see cases of these show me's. We have these nice little animated GIFs in there. So if at some point maybe you're doing this on your own or whatever, if you're not completely sure, go to the show me, right? The show me is gonna kind of show us going through the steps so you can see it as well, but I'm gonna do this with you. So the first thing we want to do is this deploy to Netlify. Now, key thing, you either want to right click and say open a link, a new tab, middle click, control click, whatever it is for you. But the point is you want to put this in another tab. Unfortunately, Markdown does not allow us to put a target equals blank in there, so I can't automatically do that. But you'll want to open that in a new tab, and you should see a page that looks like this. What this is going to do is this is going to take our It's going to create a new GitHub repository. It's going to take everything out of this repo, the code and everything, the Netflix app. And it is going to automatically deploy it to Netlify and create you a brand new GitHub repository, right? So the first thing I want to do here is this connect to GitHub. Why? Because I need to authenticate to my GitHub. Now, if you're not familiar with GitHub, it's a source control tools. There's things like GitHub, GitLab, right? GitHub is one, in the development community, it's used, I think it's the largest used source control site out there, right? If you don't have a GitHub account, it's probably a good idea to get one. It's really good too to have one for your portfolio, right? And to be able to share code and stuff. Sign up is free and everything. So if you don't have a GitHub account, go ahead and sign up. But if you do, you say connect. You say, okay, well, I want to authenticate. And now you're saying I'm allowing Netlify to go ahead and create my new site. So leave this name alone. It's going to go ahead and create a new repository called Workshop GraphQL Netflix in my account, right? So we're creating a new repository in your own account. So I'll say save and deploy. Okay, now this is there's something seriously cool that just happened right now. And I have to belabor this just a little bit. Netlify has literally now copied this repo with the application in it. And it is automatically starting to deploy this app on a global CDN and do the whole thing for me, right? This is really powerful stuff. And cool thing about it, Netlify, like Astra, there's a free tier here. I don't have to pay a thing. Matter of fact, I've been using this all year, and I can't tell you how many of these workshops I've done. I've never paid a cent, right? Now, mind you, as you start to actually go to like real production use, that's where that comes into play. But they're a really great service, especially if you're trying to learn things like Jamstack, like we talked about earlier. Okay, so now once I get to the screen, right, and I'm deploying my site, I want to click on this site deploy in progress. This is where it's going to give me, essentially any of my deploys or anything. And you'll see this here. You should see this main at head. What is it talking about here? Well, if you take a look at the GitHub repo, the main branch is the main default branch that everything's going to go into, right? I didn't tell it to do anything else. It's going to default to deploying from the main or the trunk, whatever you're familiar with there. And so when we said deploy, it's actually going to deploy what is in the main of my GitHub repo. And that's what it's doing right now, right? So if any one of you are familiar with doing things with npm or whatever, since this is a Node app with React and such like that, and use npm, then it's actually installing all the dependencies, right? So you can start to see some of these kicking off right now, actually. So you'll see all of the logs come through. It's saying, okay, it's deploying the site. And by the way, by the site, what am I talking about, right? So if I come up here and if I do this, if I look at the GitHub repo itself, notice there is an app in place. I have functions, I have my source, right? So the app, this clone, we've already built it, right? It's already here. So it's literally taking this and deploying this code. Come back down to where we were. Okay. All right, so hopefully if you get to a point where you see this, site is live, Netlify build complete, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're there.
I did see a couple, or at least one that said that the build failed. If you go to the deploy log where David is right now, it should give you an error, and if you let us know what that is, and perhaps we can troubleshoot it for you.
But and Nicholas, my GitHub repo is empty. So if you click to your GitHub repo right away and it hasn't finished the deploy, it's not going to have anything in it yet, right? So you have to give it a moment and let it finish this first initial deploy, because it actually has to transfer everything over from the parent repo over into the new repo. But as long as you get to this point, then you should be able to go and take a look at the GitHub repo.
You might want to zoom in a little bit, David.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Are you talking about this one?
Yeah.
I'll try to open that up a little bit.
That dark background makes it little, like it, you need to make it bigger than you think, I think.
And Kita, that's an interesting one. Failed to prepare repo. I've never actually seen that happen. Here's what I suggest. I would go, and I'm going to go to my GitHub repo anyway, I'm going to go there in a second. I'll show you this. So just, yeah, just watch me, Ankita, and I'm going to show you what to do. Aditya, totally, I got it. Okay, so what we want to do next, after we get this Netlify build complete, right, is you're going to go up. You're going to see you have this link up here, right? I'm going to click on that. It's going to just bring me back to the site overview for the site we created. And notice here it says deploys from GitHub. If I open that in a new tab, that is now the new GitHub repository it created for me. What I want you to notice it's my account. This isn't the parent DataStax Devs one. It's my account, and it's actually created this. Now for, let's see, for Ankita, if it said failed prepare repo, like I said, I've not seen that. I don't know how familiar you are with GitHub. Don't everybody do this. This is only if someone ran into an issue. But what you can do is if you go to, in the GitHub repo itself, if you can get to this, if you go to settings, and at the very, 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 very bottom, again, don't do this unless you ran into some issue with the repo. It says delete this repository. Just follow the steps there, delete the repository, and then go back through the steps over here. Like I said, I've never seen that particular issue in Netlify. And a lot of the times if I do run into something and it's with the repo itself, I'll just recreate the repo with Netlify and it seems like it's all good. Okay, let's see. How are we doing on the questions there?
Pretty good. I know Cedric's very active in here.
I see a question from Shivani. Shivani, what is an IDE? So we're going to use GitHub here in a moment. An IDE is just a development environment, really. Back in the day, we used to just do everything directly in the command line or in VI or Emacs or whatever in like editors. Now IDEs are these fully integrated platforms where you can code and have a terminal and have plugins and all sorts of wonderful things. We're going to use the IDE here in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you got to a point where you built the site, you saw the site build, and you've got your GitHub repo. Now, this is very important, this next step. From now on, we want to work out of your repo, right? Not the parent repo, the DataStax Devs one, your repo. So I'm just going to bring this over here so I can work off of it. Because for the rest of the work, we're actually going to do it out of your personal repos. Why? Because your repo, this is something that was really cool. When we did this deploy to Netlify thing, this now linked the repo that was created to Netlify. Anytime we make a change now to the main branch, it'll automatically deploy to Netlify. This is so powerful. So that means as you're coding, if you have an app deployed this way and as you're coding, as you make those changes, you can automatically be deploying and getting redeployed out to your CDN. So that's really awesome. So again, just make sure, I'll belabor it, make sure you're working out of your repo. Mine is SonicDMG, that's my account. It'll be whatever your account name is. Okay, so on the next part here, it says on step 2, clone your GitHub repository. Well, guess what? Netlify just did that for you. So we're already at that point. Now, at this point, this is where we want to launch our Gitpod IDE. And that's where I was belaboring, make sure you're out of your repo. Because as you do things, if you do them out of DataStax Devs repo, it's not going to quite work the way you expect. You want to do it in your own repo. So what we've done, though, is we've kind of really belabored this here in this whole section. But the Gitpod button is where it says, click here to launch Gitpod, right? You'll see a button in here. Now, something for Brave users. I'm actually using Brave, so I know this is not going to work off this button. I'm just going to do it the manual way. If you're in Chrome or whatever, you should just be able to click that link. It'll automatically launch your Gitpod repo, and it'll take a moment to load everything up. It's actually going to load up all the initial dependencies and such. But notice, though, what happened here? Oh, no, something went wrong, not found error. If you're seeing this and you're a Brave user, it's because this kind of refer link doesn't work in Brave. That's all it is. To fix that, what you do is you need a reference to your repo. So I'm actually going to copy my repo link. Again, this is only if you're in a browser where this doesn't work. And where it says that hash https github.com, I'm going to replace that with my site if I would only hit the right key. There we go. So notice that it's got the hash after gitpod.io, hash, that is my repo, and then that should load up just fine. Again, for those of you who weren't using something like Brave, if you're using Chrome or Firefox, when you click that button, it should automatically have done this. At this point, Gitpod is actually launching in the cloud. It's automatically going to download all your dependencies and everything. It takes a moment to come up, and then we're going to have the full IDE, the development environment that we're going to work in from there. All right, so if you've gotten to a point where you have something like this, give us a thumbs up.
You want to zoom in on that?
Oh, I can increase the font size. Yeah, Pranjal, I'll increase the size. Sorry about that. You know, funny enough, I had it zoomed in the other one, and then I didn't. Here, let me fix that real fast. Boop, 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 boop. Do this. Come down to where we should be. Here we go. All right, we've got the button. Let me know if the size is better. I see lots of thumbs up. Great job. Keep them coming. Awesome. All right, and then eventually, yes, we should see, yeah, it says opening IDE. Here it goes. There it goes. All right. Yeah, you should start to see a screen that looks like this. I'll go ahead and blow this one up a little bit. And you're going to see down here, it's already doing the dependency installation. It's doing some initial setup. Something else that's really powerful about Gitpod, by the way, is you can configure it to do a lot of pre-setup for you. So for Workshop, it's great, because we can give you an environment that has everything going. But if you're working in a development project with your team and you have all the dependencies pre-install themselves, then that way when somebody else is working on, they just launch and go, right? It's actually kind of neat from that standpoint. Oh, dark mode, how, Maxim? That's I changed that a while ago, and now I don't remember how I did it. Yeah, I bet you it's in the preferences or something. I honestly, maybe the settings. I honestly don't remember changing I did it so long ago now.
Real quick, I'm going to answer a question for William, who's having trouble finding the Gitpod button. So I'm switching over to my screen to show. Under step 3, there's this click here to launch Gitpod. Just drop that down. It's hidden. And we hid it because we wanted to make sure that you were in the right repo. So just drop down the click here, and there's the button.
And Diamani, I'm seeing a login to Gitpod screen. Yeah, so you do need to be logged into your GitHub account to use Gitpod. Gitpod is used out of GitHub, so you need to log into GitHub. You should only need to log into GitHub once, and then once you're launching Gitpod from there, it should be fine. Oh, Anthony found the thing for the dark mode. Cool. Yes, Jordan, if you're getting a not found error, it sounds like you're probably using a browser that does not support the refer or link capability. Here's what you need to do. Launch, still use the button. Launch it into a new tab. And you're going to have a URL that looks something like this. Notice the hash and then https github.com. You need to replace that with your repo's address. So replace it with your repo's address. So where it says hash from that point on, replace it with your address. It should look something like this. Then use that. That will launch the... Yes, same thing for you, Adita. If you're seeing no refer or found, it's the same exact thing. This is why, by the way, in the instructions we say use Chrome or Firefox if you're not using... Because unfortunately, the Gitpod button is not supported in all browsers across the board. So if you're using a different browser, you just have to do it the manual way. So it should look something like what you see up here. Again, this GitHub, the gitpod.io hash, and then the name, the link of your repo. And then if you do that, you'll get something that looks like this. Cool. Thanks, Jordan. Thank you for letting me know.
Yep.
Let's see.
And I'm going to show Kamal.
Oh, Kamal.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, got it.
It's under the click here drop down. So under launch Gitpod, yeah.
And Gitpod is wonderful in a lot of ways. As far as the speed as it takes to get the dependencies, that varies, right? So if it's still, sometimes it takes a minute, right? And I recognize that some of you are like, wait a minute, it's not there yet. Obviously, in lieu of time, we're going to have to keep going. You could always go back to the video and kind of do it. But yeah, sometimes Gitpod does take a minute. It just depends. Like, matter of fact, this right now is actually going a lot slower than it normally does. So that's one of the things you get when you're in the world of the cloud. In some cases, like you can't always be 100% on the pipe or how many other instances are using the same, hardware or whatever under the hood. But generally, it's really good. So that's why we use it. William, is all of this up after Gitpod is up? Oh, is all of this after Gitpod is up? Yes, I'm still waiting for, that's right. I'm still waiting for the initial Gitpod. So you see all of this where it loaded all the dependencies and everything. Mine just got to a prompt now. And then after that, I'm going to move to step 4 here. Let's go ahead and drop that one. Okay. I said step 4, but I meant step 4. Yeah, DTS, something is downloading, and it's not downloading directly to the terminal, but it's actually downloading. So there's kind of a joke. NPM kind of downloads the whole internet. So it does. It looks like it's downloading like all the things in the world. And it is. So what happens is in a JavaScript and Node app like this, you're going to have something called your package JSON. It's going to have all these packages, right? So all this stuff here, all these are the libraries that we need for our application. So when you first start this up, it's preloading all this. It's actually getting all these dependencies for us. So we don't have to do that part. And that's what it's downloading, right? So yeah, it kind of downloads the world a little bit. Okay, so what we want to do then is we want to go to step 4 here and do this npm install -g netlify CLI. What is that about? So now what we're doing is, now that we've installed all the base libraries and everything of our app, we need to add the Netlify CLI. So we've got this link between Netlify and our GitHub repo. That's awesome. And matter of fact, everything we're just about to do, you could do from the Netlify UI or with GitHub Actions and so on and so forth. But what we're going to do in the next couple steps is we're just going to use the CLI, which is a command line interface. That's what that means. So it means now it's going to open up capabilities that we get to do here at the command line. That's what this is talking about. So the Netlify CLI is just giving us the ability. It's just giving us the ability to run some of the commands that are coming up. Okay. Oh, I'll zoom in. Yeah, let me zoom in more on the VS Code. Let's see if this is a little better for everybody. There we go. Okay. Okay. By the way, if you see all these things about, vulnerabilities, things like that, all these issues, that's NPM. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Yeah, it makes you freak out, right? You're looking at this thinking that everything is broken in the world, and it's just how NPM works. Okay. Yeah, Pratik, if it's been stuck at starting for a while, you can try to load a new one. That's fine. Usually it just means it's taking a moment. You can always try to load another one. All right. Okay. So now we've installed the Netlify CLI. Great. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to go back and we need to get our token. So if I go down to step 6 here, notice it says create.env file. So I'm going to copy this into my buffer. Now, what does that mean? Well, in order for us to be able to talk to our database from our application, I need an environment file, .env file. That's like a default that's used pretty much in most JavaScript frameworks that I know of, right? So there's a couple different ways you could do this. The way I'm comfortable with it, and the way I'm going to do it, is I'm going to say touch.env. Right, that'll actually create an env file. Notice now a .env file showed up in my directories, my file explorer. I'm just going to double click on that. Boom, I've got the file. If I paste in the values that I just copied here from step 6, and don't forget to save, by the way, want to save, you can also turn on autosave. There's an option for that, right? Now, this isn't done yet, right? Notice I have to put in my token and my endpoint. So the token, we already did that before. So we want to use the same tokens that you used before, and we'll paste that in there. And then your endpoint. Well, remember that GraphQL, this is the GraphQL endpoint. Remember the GraphQL, oops, wrong one. Wrong place. It's over here. The GraphQL playground we were in before. This one. Specifically the one for GraphQL, not the graph schema, GraphQL. I'm going to grab this. This is my endpoint. And I'm going to paste that in here. Okay, so these two things, make sure you save. And as long as you have that, your .env file should be good to go. You know, Cedric, it's not in mine. I have to turn it on explicitly, so I think I'm missing a configuration in my Gitpod YAML. Oh, make sure, Siobhan, make sure you have a space between touch and .env. Yeah, if I were to try to do, yeah, make sure you have a space there, like you see here. Okay, so hopefully now you have a file that looks something like this. Next thing we want to do is we want to say npm install. I'm going to say, I'm just going to copy that in. It's going to install the world again. Oh, Saruba is already ahead of everybody. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So, no worries, William. No worries. No, we see it. Yeah, I'm trying to see kind of, I'm trying to understand, William, where you're at. All right, I am going to move on a little bit. I know we've got 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we at least get to Netlify Dev, this launcher app. This is the next important part. Now, to be clear, this .env file, when we set this in our application, what are we doing? Well, remember in the playground here, we authenticated our token, zoom type, and then we were able to use our GraphQL endpoint to then what? You know, add tables, add data, read data, things like that. This is the API. This is the interface that we're going to use to talk to our database on the back end. So notice I have the same values here in my env file. And this application is going to use that same endpoint to, again, read things and change things and such in the database. So when I say Netlify Dev, there we go. Now notice, see, it applied the environment. Right? It's applying the environment here. And it's going to start up the app. And hopefully you see something that looks like this. Right? Notice that I have an app. Now here's something key. If the database configuration was wrong, you would not be getting any videos. This data is coming from our database. Now in your case, since we skipped over the big data load part, you might be only seeing like a small subset of this. But if you're seeing anything at all in here, that means that you have good connectivity to your database, right? That this is actually working and doing its thing. Now, if you've gotten to this point, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here. I see some questions that are coming through in here, and I want to see if we can answer some of these. Oh, let's see, Alex Pepe in Discord. Where do you find your endpoint? Yeah, so if I scroll up a little bit, okay, notice here. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. I kind of cheated, and I just went to the GraphQL playground we were working in. However, if you go back to your Astra UI, you find the database that you're working with, so Netflix Workshop DB. In my case, I have a ton of them. You probably only have the one. And if you go to connect, let me go ahead and make this bigger. Okay. If you go to connect, this is for those of you looking for your endpoint. Go to GraphQL API. Right here. It says launching GraphQL Playground. Actually, let's see. Yeah, you still have to. Yeah, you still have to edit it. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, just scroll down a little bit, right? But you'll find it. See, this is. If you notice what this is, notice the value here. This is exactly what I had grabbed out of the GraphQL Playground, right? So I just went here because I already knew it existed and grabbed it. But you can go to the connect piece and say, hey, if you're going to write data or whatever, then use this one. Yeah, William, go to our Discord. If one of the team can drop William the Discord link, perfect. Thank you, whoever got there. Yes. Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, go to our Discord, drop some screens. We can help you there. Yeah, Wardenson, if you only see Netflix and home, is it normal? Let's take a look at something. I have a hunch. I'm going to go ahead and kill my app. Again, I'm just doing this to troubleshoot something real quick. Let me invalidate something here. Let me break something and see what happens. Because I have a hunch, Wardenson. I have a hunch. All right, let me break this and let me try to relaunch. I have a feeling I'm going to have a blank Netflix app. I think that's what you're seeing. Because I should not authenticate. It'd be funny if it worked. It's like, how did that even happen? You know, waiting for the refresh here. Yeah. Okay. I actually get a flat out error if I invalidate my key or if I have the wrong endpoint or something like that. I don't know if you're. I would think so because it does need to talk to the database, but. Yeah, Lord of Sabers, please. Yeah, just put your screenshot there. Yeah, and if you only see Pam, if you only see thumbnails for sci-fi, that's probably because we skipped the data loading step in lieu of time. So if you go back through, if you're going to go do the homework, and you go to step right here. Yeah, step 9, load a CSV dataset in part 1. You'll get all the rest of the data, right? So since we skipped that, you're only going to see some of the sci-fi stuff and things like that. All right. So let's see what happens now. I should be good. Yeah, there we go. I've got my data back. Wonderful. Okay. Make sure. So for those of you who are having trouble with the getting stuff to show up in Netflix, make sure your endpoint is correct. Notice my endpoint here is that same one we used in the GraphQL playground, that Netflix key space, right? API, GraphQL, Netflix key space. If this is not the correct endpoint, then that's not going to be able to talk to the database correctly. The token is a string, but you do not need to put it in quotes if you're talking about in the .env file. Notice mine is just a string. I don't need any quotes or single ticks or anything. Okay.
And Shishagopal, sorry if I butchered your name. For the homework, you can just reuse one of the other video links that we've used for like Inception or Aliens or whatever. That's not really important. Just the other information, the description and or the synopsis and stuff, that should be the custom stuff. So you can use just copy one of the image or links from something else. Philip Moss, where did the play button and more info buttons come from? So that is already in the app. Those are components, React components, and you can feel free to dig into the app code itself and see where those buttons are defined. Obviously, we did not create that in this workshop. That is something I think Anya goes through in her video, which is the long form, you know, from square one, from scratch stuff. She goes a lot more into the UI UX side of things. Yep. We are really just covering the data side of things here. So
Shankar, Netlify dev command not found. What should I do? Sounds like you didn't install the CLI. That's exactly what the CLI is doing for you. So when we install the Netlify command line interface, what we're really doing is we're now giving access to things like Netlify dev, Netlify login, and so on and so forth. So make sure that you have installed the Netlify CLI at step 4 here, npm install -g Netlify CLI. That should probably clear that up.
Hello, Internet. I hope you're excited for this video.
Now, Michael Butts, you say now to make a back end for this. Here's what's cool, all right? There is a back end already. And that's exactly what's responsible for getting all these videos. We haven't really talked about it here. Again, this is where you get into serverless functions. But in this functions directory, notice you have get genres and get movies. This is the backend, funny enough. This is the part, matter of fact, I should show you. Let me deploy mine real quick. So what I'm going to do, part of your homework is now to go through the rest of this from step 8 on, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and do this real fast, like super fast. So you could try to keep up if you want and see if that goes. But I'm just going to do it like real quick because I want to show you something that's really important. And then we can get to the Menti and everything. But this is what I'm going to do now is actually part of the homework. So I'm going to go fast again. Don't mind me as I do that. All right. I'm just going to pop through these. So what I'm doing here, by the way, is I'm logging into Netlify with my account, the one that we created earlier. I'm going to, let me minimize this down. I'm now linking this app, I'm linking what I'm doing here locally to my Netlify that we deployed earlier. Again, this is all in the instructions, right? I'm not doing anything that's out of the instructions. This command here is telling This command here is telling Netlify, I want to copy the environment information from my .env file, and I'm going to import that into Netlify. That's important because when you go to actually deploy your app to prod, it needs the same configuration information. And then by building it, I'm actually just, if I didn't build it, Netlify would build it on its own, but I'm just doing the build here locally. And so it's a way that if you want to, you can kind of shortcut. If you're already building locally and such, and you want to see how that works from the local build, you can do that, and then you can just push that up to Netlify. And again, I am speeding. This is part of the homework. I'm speeding through this because I want to show you something in particular. This Netlify deploy -- prod, something I want to point out about that is normally I would not use -- prod. Normally, I would just say Netlify deploy. That will actually do here in Netlify. It'll do like a preview. It'll do a deploy preview, and it won't just deploy right to prod. What I just told it to do was deploy right to prod. So, if you really want to do that, that's fine. That's not the way I would probably do it. I'd probably do a deploy preview first, but you notice right here, it went and pushed it, but also noticed that it didn't have to do a build. Why? Because I'd already done the build. The last thing here is this open site. Then it's linked. It knows where it is. So I'm actually going to go open the site. And notice the URL difference. I'll put this in a different tab so we can see it. Notice this. This URL up here, right? This is my site. If I go to, notice right here, this is my Netlify site. This is me actually pushing this, right? Now, why did I do this, even though this is for the homework? Well, what I want to show you is going back to something in the instruction here. So remember I was mentioning that it imports the env information? So that command grabbed my env file, and this is really neat. I love this part about it. I almost for a moment kind of forgot. No, I need to go site settings. There we go, site settings. So if I go to my build and deploy, again, you don't have to follow me on this. I'm just showing you to my environment. Check this out. That command injected my environment variable values into Netlify. Why is this important? You never want to store this kind of stuff out in the open, ever, right? You don't want to hard code this into your repo, nothing like that. So by injecting the values from my .env, my environment variables, into Netlify, these environment variables are protected, right? So later on, when I have my serverless functions, and if I take a look at my functions here, you'll notice I have get genres and get movies, just like I have here, okay? When I deploy these, I don't have to put any of my authentication credentials out in the open. That's being stored in a safe, secure way inside of Netlify. So that one little command is actually seriously powerful. And now these guys can just authenticate. Obviously you have to have code in there that does that talks to them. But it makes the transition going from local to production pretty darn seamless, is what it comes down to. So it's actually really neat. Here you go. Notice this process.env AstraDB application token. That's your AstraDB application token, right? So it's using the values from the environment variables right there in the function. And I don't have to do anything special other than just inject the environment variables up to Netlify using the command here, right? So it's you start to get the flow of it, and it's really powerful stuff. But I just wanted to show that to you. Yes, and yeah, the command just injects it. That's right. That's right. Yeah, you've got it right. Okay, so the homework, by the way, I guess, so at that point, by the way, for the homework, the end goal, what you're trying to do is you want this. You want to get to a point where you have your own production Netlify deployment with your Netflix clone going. And we'll know that it's working because we see the data here. This tells me you're talking to the database. If I see these videos, I know you're talking to the database, right? Also at the very, very, very bottom, you'll see this extra resources section, and that's where is Anya's Netflix video. So for those of you who really want to get into more of the UI components, the React pieces, that piece, watch Anya's video and go through it and struggle a little bit, honestly. Go through the video and struggle a little bit so you can kind of get the feel and flavor of how to actually build it. So then you can combine what Anya's doing and what we're doing to get the whole end-to-end package. Okay. All right. So what do you think, Ryan? I mean, how are we doing on questions? I see some, but I'm not sure where we are in answering things. Yep. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna. Matter of fact, we can drop the homework link directly. Here it is. Or I can just, remove it completely. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Someone's saying they can't hear you.
Yeah.
Ryan.
So you were echoing in my mic, so I muted myself. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me repeat. So the error with Netflix, only getting the Netflix logo is because your .env file is probably not formatted correctly. Make sure that it is the application token and the endpoint without quotes. So the token and the endpoint should not have quotes. They should not have brackets. They should just be text.
And Duomani, there are two different ways you can get your endpoint. One, if you go to the playground, right? When we were here at the GraphQL tab, you actually had to, this is the endpoint right here. This is the right endpoint, right? And by right, I mean W-R-I-T, not like the correct endpoint, but both are correct technically. Yeah, so this is one way to get it. Or if you don't have this handy, if you go back into your Astra UI and you pick your database, okay, and I've got like a million, there it is. You click on it and you go to the Connect tab. By the way, this is all in the instructions in the README, okay? So you shouldn't have to watch this to see it, but I just want to point it out. Go Connect and GraphQL API. If you scroll down a little bit to the right, you want to write data. That's the key thing. You want to write data. Here it is, right? It's going to give you the endpoint as well. It'll tell you what that is. So that's where you can get that. For the application token, Walter, again, if you go back either to the playground and you have your token down here in the bottom of the HTTP headers, if you don't have that, then you need to either get it from your CSV. If you did not download one, then you'll probably need to create another token, right? So that's where you would actually come back over to here to token management and create another. Because once you've, as Ryan talked about earlier, once you've created a token, you can't go back in for security reasons and go get that in the system. You either have to download the CSV or just create a new one. So you can come in, you can create as many of these as you want. You can come in here, create another administrator, generate a new one, and use that token if you need to.
And William, I saw your screenshot in Discord. You're using the .env.sample. Don't use that one. Just create a new file .env and copy the variable definitions from the GitHub, which is just the two, the token and the endpoint, and follow what David was just saying about getting those.
Yep, and we're gonna we are just about to, we're gonna do the quiz. And it's not a certificate. Here's how you get a badge to get credit for today. Do the homework in the link. For those of you asking how do you submit, at the very end, it'll tell you, just click on this link. It'll submit an issue here in the homework, and it'll give you, it's a nice template that you can just fill out. Please do not, though, when you submit your screenshots, we just need to see the end deployed app. We'll know that it's working. Do not submit your Astra token, because that's a big security thing. You don't want to do that because that puts your token out in the open. So just make sure your image doesn't. Having an image, by the way, that looks like this with your Netlify live site and these and the videos, we'll know it's working. We'll know you've done it. So you can literally submit this image, not mine, but yours. You can literally submit your image, and that's fine. You'll also see here, we really suggest to watch the Anya video and go through and trying to do that. Also, you want to insert a movie of your choice into the database as well. So go ahead and just do those things. Again, the homework will have a link for you to submit.
So homework, we talked about this a little bit. You're going to import a movie you like into the database with GraphQL. you can emulate step 7 to do that. And also, as an optional, watch the Anya video. If you were more interested in the React and UI UX side of things, she's going to go into much more detail on that. So it'll be a great resource for that. I think it's like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
So go check that out. All the info is in the GitHub repo. So if you need a refresher on what the homework is, that is all specified in the repo as well. We have a few resources for continued learning. Academy.datastacks.com. We have a lot of courses there that you can go through. Some certification level courses. So you can go there and check that out. We also have datastacks.com/dev, which is another place for some self-service courses as well. Community.datastacks.com is a place that you can ask questions specifically about Cassandra and some of the like Astra and whatnot. It's kind of like Stack Overflow for Cassandra. So that is a good place for community. Obviously, we do have our Discord, but you can also ask questions as well. And our YouTube channel, which is probably where you are right now. Consider subscribing. We do these workshops every week. We do multiple workshops a week. If you want to be notified when we go live or of upcoming things, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we are offering free certification vouchers for attending today's workshop. So if you use the link that you see on the screen, or you can scan the QR code, I think I'm going to try and drop that in the chat as well. But you can use this for vouchers. It's valid for 2 attempts at $145 value each. So it's a really good way to, get certified for cheap, for free. So you can go to that link. It should be open. If it's not open right now, oh, awesome. If it's not open right now, it'll be open soon. It's only open for a limited time after the workshops though. So be sure to jump on that as soon as possible. All right. So just a little brief overview of the learning paths that we have. These are the certifications that you can use those vouchers for. We have the developer certification, the administrator certification, and the Kate Sandra certification. And all of these paths, learning paths, are found at academy.datastacks.com. So you can go through those learning paths and then go for the certification. And then again, we do workshops every week. If you go to datastacks.com/workshops, you'll be able to see the upcoming workshops and register from that site as well. And finally, again, our Discord is a place, we answer a lot of questions in the YouTube chat, but at the end of the session, that chat goes away and we can't address the questions. So if you go to Discord, join our Discord, you can ask questions and it'll stick around and we can address them going forward. And we have Cassandra Day India coming up July 10th, so coming up real soon. This is a full day event, lots of workshops. Are we doing workshops? I think we're doing workshops in this one as well. A lot of different webinars or content that we're doing for Cassandra Day India. That is on July 10th.
And as you can tell by the name, it is specifically for India, and
Yes.
it is localized, right? So it is meant for Indian speakers and everything like that. So it is for all of our Indian friends who show up to all of our workshops all the time. That's for you.
Cluster ID, yes. Real quick for the voucher. Yeah, I'll show it. If you go to your Astra database dashboard, right? And you click on your Netflix Workshop DB on the left side here, your cluster ID is right here. So that's your cluster ID. That's what you need for the voucher. Yep, forgot about that. Thank you, whoever asked for that, Noor. Thank you, Noor. All right. Cool. And with that, thank you very much for joining us today. And especially thank you for sticking with us through the technical issues that we had. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you learned a lot. We had a good time. I really appreciate all of your questions, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Take care. See ya.
See ya.
And as always, don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notifications for all of our future upcoming workshops.
Imagine a being gifted with powers from the goddess of Cassandra, who grew those powers until she could multiply at will, move with limitless speed, and unmask hidden knowledge. With those powers, she was able to fully understand the connectedness of the world. What she saw was a world in need of understanding. From that day forward, she sought to bestow her powers on all who came into contact with her, empowering them to achieve wondrous feats.